How you doing, YouTube's Willful Development? It's my 453rd weekly update, and I am in much better spirits this week. Although things in my personal life have not been going that great. It's just little petty stuff. Not even like, and I don't mean like interpersonal relationship, personal life stuff. I mean, for instance, my motorcycle has been just giving me a lot of grief lately. Finally got the carbs resynced. This is the kind of content people look for here, I'm sure. Again, these have always been mostly for me, and if you gain any value from it, I'm glad. But understand this is just more like a weekly video diary for myself. So I'm already laughing about it, but I'm sure later on I'll be laughing even harder. Hopefully, while I ride my motorcycle for the first time in like a week and a half. Now, it has been started about 3 days ago, and while it was started, the fuel pump on it went out. And I know what you're thinking, but Will, it's a 15-year-old bike that's carbureted. And yes, some, if not most, carbureted engines still have some form of fuel pump to pump the fuel from the tank to the carburetors, in my case, plural. So I sync the carbs, which if you don't know what that is, just look it up. Basically, what happens is the carbs just don't open and close at the same time as they should, and it's very simple adjustment on that bike. I had them synced up, and it was going great, and I was like, sweet, I'll go ride on Monday. Monday, I started it, and the bike just died all of a sudden, and it was because the fuel pump had just died. Now, could have still ridden it, just bypassed the fuel pump, and gravity would have still taken care of most of the fueling up until it was lower than a half a tank. Long story short, I said, well, damn, okay, so I need to order new ones of those. So got a new fuel pump, new filter, because that's what you should do. And honestly, the pump looked like it was the stock one. They used a lot of Mitsubishi parts on those bikes, and it was a Mitsubishi pump, and I doubt if it was replaced. The person bought an OEM, because most people don't do that, because it's like $180 versus like 40 that I paid for my aftermarket one. And I said, well, if I got to take off that half of the bike, because you have to take off the seats and then take off some paneling on the side. There's not a lot of paneling. It's a cruiser style bike, so there's not a lot of paneling on the side like you would see on like a sport bike. But I was like, well, you know what? I want to put this oil filter relocation kit. I won't get into why on these bikes you might want one as a quality of life improvement, but it's one of those things that's a very common modification for this particular motorcycle. And I've had one in my possession for a while, but you have to drain the oil to put it on. And I was like, well, if I'm going to drain the oil, I should probably change my starter clutch, which is a pretty complicated job. And I was like, cool. So I'll drain the oil, put that in because I've had that part sitting around and I just hadn't done it yet. And I said, cool, I'll do that while I wait for the filter to or the pump to come in. And I got that installed on like Wednesday, I think. Hopefully I did it right. We'll find out when I finally get to try to start my bike. I know I didn't mess up my timing. The only thing I'm worried about is that I put the part in backwards because it's a one-way clutch and it should only spin one direction. And I'm like, cool, it looks like it's supposed to spin clockwise when it's on. And that's the way it was spinning when I put it on. So hopefully I did it right. I'll find out someday. So I finished that up like yesterday. And today I was like, cool, I'm waiting on nothing. I'll just put on the oil filter relocation kit, which is, it's not a crazy job, but on my bike, you have to take off the exhaust. And I wanted to soak all the parts on the exhaust before so I didn't break an engine stud or something like that. The exhaust came off pretty easy. Still is a bit of a bear of a job, and I'm glad I'm putting the kit on there because I wouldn't want to have to take my exhaust off every time I want to change my oil. That's the long story, is why you put those kits on. And I was putting the kit on, and when I was torquing down one of the screws on the kit, I misunderstood that it was supposed to get torqued down to 90 inch-pounds. Progressively, 30, 60, and then 90. And I was using a foot-pound torque wrench, so I torqued it down to 30, except it just kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter until all of a sudden it got loose. And that's just pro tip for you kids. That's never a good thing. You're tightening a bolt, and all of a sudden it gets really loose. Yes, I in fact did strip out one of these screws, probably the most important screw on that particular kit. Not the screw, actually, the hole. Stripped it out because when I got the screw back out, I could see the threads from inside the block were embedded in the screw. And I was like, cool, that's great. That's good news. Awesome. I actually took it really well. I'm very proud of how I took it. I just kind of smiled and was like, of all the things, right? So I have some thread repair coming in along with new spark plugs. So I'll have a whole bunch of brand new stuff on the bike. It's very exciting. And I am just hoping that when I just plug that battery back in and hit that button, she just starts like a top and just I'll be good for 10 to 15,000 miles without any major repairs, and have a nice, super easy oil change to do. So it's just like, man, I've just all I've wanted to do was ride since Monday, and I thought I'd be able to do it tomorrow morning perhaps, and it's just not been the case. So that's kind of sucked a little bit. But training this week has been awesome. Tuesday's press day. Oh, right. So last week was a very, very challenging and upsetting week for pressing. And then this week, I did come back in on Saturday and I fixed the wall. And then Sunday, I came in and I moved the mirror over the patch. So it's like it never happened because you can't see it. So it didn't happen. And I decided to make up for some of the pressing that I had missed on Friday. I ended up hitting one of the top singles I was supposed to hit instead of two. And then I got through one set of the working sets, the drop down sets I was supposed to do. One out of the three. And threw a good little hissy fit. Was very upset. I wish I could have done better at it, but it was what it was. And then Monday's squats went actually really well. And then Tuesday's pressing went phenomenally. Strict press, I am, based on the math, I am stronger at strict pressing than I've ever been. Haven't gone for one rep yet, but based on that math, and how easily 90% moved. I mean, it was a double at 90, and it was like I could have done two more easily. And so it was awesome. That was great on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I just worked on the bike all day, got that new starter clutch in. Life was going good at the time on the bike anyway. And then Thursday's deadlifts went amazing. I have moved back to the deadlift bar, and I pulled 90%, like butter. Did working reps at 80 something percent, and those were like, they were challenging, but at no point did I feel like I was going to fail. Except on like my very last rep. I think my like ninth total rep, I was like, oh, that was a close one. But yeah, it was just like, cool. This is feeling really good, really strong. Can't wait to deload next week and just see what I'm actually capable of as a little mini test. And that'll be very exciting. And then pressing tonight went pretty damn good too. Had a little stumble. This was an RPE style week, so nothing was set in stone, but I was supposed to go for a top double. And it was my own fault. I just didn't warm up properly with the weights. I just jumped too high too fast, and I kind of screwed up my top double. And I was like, damn, well, that sucks. And but it was like, all right, let's drop 10% and do that for doubles for a few sets of that, sort of a mini deload. And first set went kind of rough, and then the second set, I mean, I had two perfect reps, which felt great. It just reminded me once again that I need to ensure that I get really good warm-ups when it comes to, especially on log overhead stuff, because it's still a very challenging movement for me. So I still need to really, really work on my warm-ups and make sure I get a good amount of reps, warming up for that particular movement. Axle, I'm not necessarily gotten stronger, but I've definitely got more proficient at it. So I don't necessarily need as many warm-ups with that. Same thing with like barbell overhead pressing. But log is still one of those ones where I'm like, man, I definitely just need to get more warm-up reps on this and really focus on what I need to focus on. I'm changing a couple things here and there, wide I stand, that sort of thing too, and experimenting with some different things to see if I can, get the most out of my body. Because what it is, when I'm super wide with my feet, I tend to be pretty stable in the rack position. The problem is when I go for my dip there, I don't get a lot of drive out of it. Well, with the feet more narrow, it makes it a little bit more challenging for me to dip and keep my stability, but I get a much better pop out of it, which I think is probably what I'm going to work on. Just, like, why am I going so wide? I don't do that when I do axle. I should probably just try to keep the same foot pattern that I have there, because I know that's a good placement for me to have enough power out of the bottom of the push. So, just little things I'm working on, but it's nice to have had a good week. I've really focused on getting better sleep this week too, so I know that's definitely helped. Um, so, as long as training goes well next week, and I can keep that consistency going with the sleep and the training, the next step is to really, really dial in some more nutrition and work on shedding this like 6 or so pounds I'm still carrying that I don't want to carry around. I want to be still right around 185. Right now I'm still walking around 190, and I don't need the extra weight. It's not making me any stronger. And there's a couple shows that pique my interest leading into next year, and I would rather just do a really, really slow cut. I mean, we're talking like a half a pound a week kind of weight loss sort of deal. And that'd be a very comfortable and easy way to lose some just normal weight, body fat. Plus, I would look better, and that always feels good when you look better. So yeah, um, look forward to the good days. I've said that 100 times, I'm sure, in these videos, but it definitely is a lesson. Just keep trying, keep pushing. It gets better. Celebrate the wins, and don't beat yourself up too bad on the failures. And if you do, then what's your excuse?